So, e-cigarettes, are they this amazing tool to help you quit smoking for good? Or are we just swapping one problem for another? You hear it everywhere, the debate is endless, and honestly, it can be super confusing. So let's cut through all that noise and look at what the highest level of science actually has to say.
Right, so this is the big question, isn't it? If a smoker is looking to quit, is grabbing a vape a brilliant move that's backed by science, or are the risks just not worth it? To get a real answer, we've got to see what all the global research, when you put it together, really tells us. So where are we getting our answers? Well, not just from any old study. We're going to the very top of the evidence pyramid, to something called an overview of systematic reviews. Now, this isn't just one study. As you can see, it's a review of reviews. It's like a giant meta-analysis that takes all the best research from all over the world and boils it down into one powerful conclusion. Seriously, think of it as the Supreme Court of scientific evidence. It's the final word, for now.
All right, so now that we've established our source is basically the gold standard, let's get to the juicy part. What does this mountain of evidence actually say about how well e-cigarettes work for quitting smoking? Okay, first up, it's the main event. In one corner, you've got nicotine e-cigarettes. And in the other corner, the classic champion, nicotine replacement therapy, or NRT. You know the stuff, the patches, the gums, the lozenges. For decades, this has been the go-to recommendation. So, how does the new kid on the block measure up? Wow, the results are pretty clear. When you look at the highest quality reviews, it turns out people using nicotine e-cigarettes were almost 1.6 times more likely to successfully quit smoking for at least 6 months compared to people using patches or gum. Now that is not a small margin. That's a really significant jump in how well something works.
All right, but hold on. How much of that is the nicotine doing the heavy lifting versus just the physical act of vaping? A fair question, right? Well, to figure that out, scientists did the perfect comparison: nicotine e-cigarettes versus identical e-cigarettes that had zero nicotine in them, a placebo. This is so key to understanding what's really going on.
And yup, the evidence is pretty decisive here too. People were nearly 1.5 times more likely to quit when their vape actually contained nicotine. This just shows how critical that nicotine delivery is. It's not just about keeping your hands busy. It's about satisfying that powerful craving, but in a much, much less harmful way than a cigarette.
Okay, and now for the big one, maybe the most realistic comparison. How do nicotine e-cigarettes stack up against what a lot of smokers actually try, which is, just some behavioral support, or even tougher, trying to go it alone with no help at all, the classic cold turkey approach. And this might be the most powerful number of all. Smokers using nicotine e-cigarettes were almost twice as likely, 1.88 times, to be smoke-free after 6 months than those who had no product helping them out. So let's be clear, when you pile all of this top-tier evidence together, one thing becomes obvious. Nicotine e-cigarettes are the single most effective tool we have right now for quitting smoking. Period. Okay, so they work. That's a huge deal. But that's only half the picture, right? Just because something is effective doesn't mean it's a free pass. We have to talk about the risks. We have to ask the hard questions about safety and side effects.
This is the question everyone asks, and for very good reason. So after looking at all this data on quitting, what does it say about the potential health trade-offs? So this chart does a great job of laying it all out. The scientists looked at 2 different kinds of problems. First, what they call adverse events. Think of things like a sore throat or a cough. Annoying for sure, but not dangerous. And across the board, they found very little difference between vapes and other methods. But then you have serious adverse events, or SAEs. This is the major stuff, the things you really worry about. And here, the evidence was called inconclusive. But that word, inconclusive, it can be a little scary, so we need to dig into what that actually means, and this quote gets to the heart of it. A key detail is that even when serious health problems did pop up in these studies, the researchers concluded that none of them were directly caused by using the nicotine e-cigarettes. That's a really vital piece of the puzzle. It means that while scientists are still cautious and want more long-term data, they haven't found a direct link to serious harm. And that really brings us to a super important point. Good science is always upfront about what it doesn't know. It's honest about its own limits. So what are the big questions that are still out there? So the researchers were really clear about where the gaps are. First, like we just talked about, we definitely need more long-term data on those serious adverse events, just to be absolutely certain about safety down the road. Second, we need more studies that put e-cigarettes head-to-head against other quit-smoking prescription drugs, like cytosine and bupropion. And finally, most of this research comes from wealthier countries. We really need more studies from low and middle-income countries to get the full global picture.
Okay, so let's tie all of this together. We've looked at how well they work, we've looked at the safety picture as it stands today. So what? Why is all this so important? And here's why it matters. Everything we've talked about today isn't just someone's opinion or some small cherry-picked study. It's all based on a massive, comprehensive overview of global research that was published in the journal Addiction, which is a huge deal in the field. This is the scientific consensus right now, and that gives smokers, doctors, and yeah, even politicians a solid foundation to make really informed decisions based on facts, not on fear or hype.
So that really leaves us with one massive lingering question. The evidence is about as clear as it gets. We have a tool that is significantly better at helping people quit smoking, the world's #1 preventable killer, than anything else we've ever had. So the question we have to ask ourselves is, how should this powerful evidence shape the future of public health? What's the smart path forward? Definitely something to think about.